Hello and welcome to the Association for Coaching podcast. My name is Rob Lawrence and I'm your host for this Boost Your Coaching Business series. Today I have with me someone who believes that success is possible with the right mindset. Having experienced a profound turning point in her own life, Abigail Barnes today helps organisations, coaches and entrepreneurs improve their own productivity and the quality of their life by doing less, not more. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you today, Abigail Barnes. Abigail, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you on the podcast, Abigail. So just to give our listener a sense of who you are, how would you describe how it is that you show up in the world today and what it is that you do?
So I am a time management author, speaker, trainer, and I show up in the world making the most of my time and being that change that I want to see in the world. So inspiring others to find out how they can maximize their time, what they need to do more of, less of, in order to create that work-life balance that we're all looking for.
Yeah, got it. So you're a living example, I suppose, of the philosophy that you preach about. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, you have to practice what you preach. Apart from anything, energy doesn't lie. So you can't say one thing and do another thing these days because it just catches you out.
Yeah, people pick up on that stuff now. Well, you've got a fascinating backstory as to how you got to where you are today. For our listener, would you mind sharing some of that story? And there was a particular turning point in your life which I'm interested to learn more about.
Yeah, for the listener then, maybe you will resonate with this story. I always wanted to run my own business as a child, but I just didn't have any examples of relatives, friends or family or anybody I knew close to me who did it. There was Richard Branson and that was about it. So I did what everybody around me did. I went to university, I got a degree in business and marketing, and I worked in the city, in the financial sector in London, on and off throughout my degree in my holidays. So what that meant was by the time I finished my degree, I had a job that I had already negotiated. So I finished my degree on the Friday and I started work in the city on the Monday. And I just sort of went from job to job, if you like, every few years, looking for something. I felt like there was a hole in my soul that I just couldn't seem to fill with parties, with Prosecco, with Prada, with all the things that other people were doing. It never seemed to feel like that was the answer until one day, one of the jobs I was in, my boss came to my desk and said, okay, we're sending you on a work business trip. And Rob, I thought that was it. I thought that I would fly, to America. I'd go business class, which was amazing, and that I was here, that I'd made it. And maybe some of your audience sort of have that corporate background and they have transitioned into what it is that they do today. Well, I don't know about their transition, but my transition wasn't a Disney movie. My transition literally was arriving in Boston off of a flight and being collected by my friend and taken to her parents' house, where we had Boston clam chowder for dinner and some wine. And I woke up the next morning with a headache, which obviously you would expect after having consumed a few glasses of wine and maybe a bottle, let's not go into that, of champagne on the aeroplane. I mean, it was the first time I was flying business class after all. So I wake up on that Saturday morning, 25th of February 2012, with a bit of a headache. My friend comes into the room and says, right, Abigail, get up. That's it. We're going shopping. We're going to have our Starbucks coffee. That's what we planned. And I just said to her, I'm really sorry. I can't move. I've got a really bad headache and just leave me a minute. I'll be all right. And fast forward, symptoms of this headache turned into black and white lights flashing in front of my eyes, which then turned into me asking her whether she had a dustbin because I needed to be sick. At which point her mum walked past the bedroom door, poked her head in and was greeted with her guest being sick in a dustbin. At this point, I was literally the worst house guest you could ever have. But I was so unwell that I couldn't even, I just didn't know what was going on. So her mum, in fairness, bless her, went off and called an ambulance, which at the time I thought was a little bit dramatic, but actually probably saved my life, because 24 hours later, I was in hospital being woken up by a doctor with the results of the tests that they'd been doing and told that at the age of 32, I'd had a stroke. So my transition from the corporate world into the entrepreneurial world came via a near-death experience. And cue then the past sort of 8 or 9 years of what I would call my personal development, spiritual awakening, business journey into what I do and where I am today.
Wow, what a story. Gosh, that's quite an experience. And in my mind, I wouldn't expect somebody at that young age to be experiencing something like a stroke. So that must have been quite a shock and a surprise to you.
Yeah, I mean, it totally was. And the doctor said that I spent a week in hospital while they ascertained what it was that had actually caused the stroke. They were looking into all of the usual things. And the conclusion was that it was a 1 in a million kind of thing that just didn't really happen very regularly. And they were a bit like, so we think you should be fine from here on in. So we're going to discharge you on with your life, and best wishes with it.
Wow. Have there been any lasting effects since then?
So I was very, very fortunate to walk away from the stroke without any physical disabilities. But what I did have and have had has been sort of the psychological side of it. Say that my journey post-stroke has really been around mental health, PTSD. Initially, it was just chronic depression. I could not get out of bed because my brain couldn't process what had happened. I mean, it's really hard to describe this, but we all know we're going to die. But you're not brutally aware of it in your face until something happens. And maybe your audience can sort of resonate with this now on the back of 2020 and sort of the pandemic, where it kind of, our mortality globally has probably been more prevalent to us, more obvious in the last sort of 12 months. So perhaps now when I talk about it, people sort of understand what I'm saying. So my brain just couldn't process, something's happened, but you look normal. Something's happened, but you look normal. And this is the thing with mental health. And obviously, there is more and more active conversations about it. It's okay not to be okay, and it is something that you can't see. But so my journey with it has really been processing what happened and then what that means, and then rewriting who I want to be and what I want from my second life.
And in terms of your second life, how has that profound life experience changed things for you in terms of your perspective on life, and how has that affected what it is that you do today?
So after the stroke, I was signed off from work to sort of rehabilitate, if you like, to go back. And I actually went back to the office, back to the job, but something just didn't feel right. And it wasn't where I know I needed to be. So then it was now my time to find out what this entrepreneur stuff actually meant, and to go down this path of, okay, well, maybe I want to be a coach, so I'll train to be a coach. And maybe I want to write a book, so I'll write a book. Maybe I want to be like these personal development speakers that I'm seeing on the stage, so I'll train to become a speaker. So the journey after has literally become one of relearning, of becoming a beginner again in a totally new arena, overcoming hurdles that I didn't even know existed, but enjoying every day and sort of showing up to my life with a courage of it's now or never, which is what I teach to my clients, to anybody who will listen to me, is the message that I'm sharing. And do we have to go through a near-death experience to have that realization? I don't know.
I'm curious to learn, would you say you are naturally entrepreneurial? You mentioned finding out what it is to be like an entrepreneur there and how this experience has led to that journey. You mentioned there also being a beginner again. I'd love to know what that feels like for you. I'm curious to learn whether you feel you've always been sort of naturally entrepreneurial, wanting to run your own business, and whether that was something that was innate in you, always, or whether it's something that's evolved since this experience that you had.
Yeah, and it's such that interesting question, the chicken and the egg. Were you born an entrepreneur, or can you learn it? So I would say I didn't start out as a child running a lemonade stand, but I certainly was aware from a very young age of things that businesses could do to improve things, or ways that accidental things happened that could be turned into another product, like random things. Maybe your audience can remember this. You used to be able to colour your hair with coloured mascara. So it was like a mascara wand that was a different colour, and you could paint it onto your hair. And one day that idea just came to me before the product existed, by accidentally getting mascara on my hair and sort of thinking, oh, I wonder if you could do this. And then having this conversation with other people, friends and family, who were like, I don't know how you do it. It would be really complicated. And so I was always stopped by the how. And on the entrepreneurial journey, what I have learnt is it is our job to have the dream. It is our job to have the vision. It is our job when we're working with our clients in a coaching arena to ask them what their future vision is. And the how unfolds as you take that courageous action towards that future vision. The how maybe is a web designer, someone who can help you with your funnel, a Facebook ads expert. The sort of the tactical becomes apparent as you are moving along the journey. And as you're moving along the journey, your confidence grows. So then you start to ask better quality questions. And I guess that's sort of what's happened for me, is that I had a very fixed mindset prior to my wake-up call. And I just I'd always dreamed when I was younger that there must be another way. But society, the life, the world around me convinced me that this is the way it is. Because every time I sort of raised the question of, well, what if we did it differently? It was always shut down. And the exciting thing is that the world is different now. But 10 years ago, it wasn't. And I try to explain to people who talk about personal development and talk about even, coaching and these sorts of things. 10 years ago, a mobile phone was to make phone calls. It was to play Snake, and it was to send text messages. We didn't have WhatsApp. We couldn't communicate with our clients. We didn't do all of the amazing things that we can do with apps, the communities that we can build. Facebook was really like what book? Instagram was just for perfect photos. And so, but there has never been a better time to do what it is that you want to do, to take your game to the next level, to start to grow, to be in the world of possibility.
With that in mind, I'm curious, you mentioned fixed mindset there. How did you develop the self-awareness that you needed to be able to get out of that fixed mindset and develop the right mindset, I suppose, and perhaps the habits that you would need to be able to get to where you have got to today?
Yeah, and that's such an interesting question. So my introduction to the fixed mindset and the growth mindset came from TEDx, obviously, Carol Dweck, who is just the originator of it. Her work, is it Stanford University that she is actually at, where she's done the research into it. And that came about from just a desire to fill my mind with new information. So just to probably take it back a step, when I came back to the UK after the stroke, and I went straight into this sort of depressed state of not knowing what to do next, not feeling joyous and grateful, but just feeling guilty and overwhelmed and unsure and uncertain and scared of everything and paranoid. One day, I had this lightning bolt thought of, I just can't be like this anymore. And I grabbed my laptop and I opened it up, and I think I just Googled motivational speakers or something. And I came across Tony Robbins. So I just started to consume his work. And then I just got myself onto this journey, the personal development journey, who I'm sure your audience have either been on it or at stages of it. And I just went from him to Zig Ziglar, to Jim Rohn, to Wayne Dyer, that I started down a little bit of the spiritual path. it was like my eyes were open to another way. And it sounds ridiculous to say it now, but I was so browbeaten by this is the way it is, that it was almost like the optimist in me she hadn't died, but she'd kind of gone on holiday.
Yeah.
But the more I read the books and consumed the information, it helped me to start to step into the role of the scientist of my own life. And this is what I say to my clients and anybody that I work with now is, you're not going to resonate with everybody. You're not going to like the journey that I went on. You're not going to like the journey other people went on, but be open to reading new things, to learning new things, to taking it on board, to mulling it around in your head and asking but what if? What if this could work? What if I could do this? What if, rather than it will never work, it's the way it used to be, which is that very, very fixed mindset. And it's hard. It was Steve Jobs who said you can join up the dots when you look back. So you do need some space and time between where you've come from and where you're going in order to be able to go, oh, yes, that book was a pivotal book and this step was a pivotal step. And my book journey won't be your book journey. So when people say to me, what's a great book? I'll say, well, this one helped me with this, so that I'm couching it rather than saying, you must read this. And the reason that I do this now is because maybe you've been there or your audience have been there on the journey where then you'll meet someone who says, you've got to read this, you've got to go there, you've got to do this. And my view now is we all have the answers inside of us. And this is the coach coming out. So our job is to coach that answer out of ourselves in the same way that we coach that answer out of our clients, and not assume that anyone is broken and needs fixing or that they need to do it now. Because if we're privileged enough to be able to change our reality in this lifetime, then that's amazing. But not everybody is. And self-awareness, it's a reflection of your self-worth, which is a reflection of where you are on the consciousness scale in your life right now. And some people are conscious to it. And I, as I said, was totally unconscious to other possibilities because the people around me found these things weird and didn't trust people. And it's just the way we do it. No, don't read that. Don't go there. Don't do this. Let's just do what we did. But it was Einstein who said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting to get a different result.
Yeah.
So does that answer your question, or is it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. And I love that quote as well, that Einstein quote there in terms of what you were saying there. I think also in the context of habits too, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is insanity. I'm curious to know, you mentioned there being a scientist of your own life, and I love that idea. Being a scientist of your own life, Abigail, what have you discovered? What big insights have you found that are common also to those that you work with as well? What significant changes have you been able to successfully implement in your own life to change not just your life, but also your business and being able to grow your business too?
So I guess this then leads into what it is that I do in my business and with my clients and with my life. And my awakening or sort of journey helped me to identify the value of time. And that prior to my wake up, I had just been one of those people who never had enough time, was always too busy. I was chasing my tail. I was compromising my health, my well-being and everything, and just prioritizing work. And my time wasn't something that I treated with respect. It was just something that, I've woken up today. What do we need to get done? Let's do it. So it was a very alpha, very unconscious approach to time management. So where I am today is having gratitude and respect. Like, I have another day. What am I going to do with this 24 hours? What change can I create? What people can I inspire? What can I help my clients to see that they can't yet see today by looking at it from a very different point of view? And I have this story that I always say to them is either let's get into the helicopter of possibility and look down on this situation, or come here and let's get in the elevator and go to the penthouse. And I know it sounds a bit weird, but depending on the client and their energy, I will use one of those two analogies, either the helicopter or the penthouse. And they now, funnily enough, say to me, oh, I can't wait for that penthouse party. I'm like, but it's your penthouse and you can have that party whenever you want to have it. Because our time, how we spend our 24 hours every day is creating our reality. There is no, this is just what you get. You need to accept it. You need to make the best of it. A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. So you may as well just take the bird in the hand because you don't know if there's two in the bush. So all of these sorts of beliefs and limiting beliefs that are just passed on from person to person and are just accepted as the way things are. My mission is to help people to question it all and to say, why? Is it? Is that true? Is that really true? Do I have proof that that's true? And if I have proof, okay then. But if someone else is getting different results with how they spend their 24-hour day, how they are managing their time, the relationships they have, the business that they have, the health and well-being that they have, if it's possible for them, it's possible for me. What do I need to change? So I'm working with them on improving their time management and becoming more productive. But the reality is I'm actually working with them on their mindset and changing how they look at everything. And when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
I remember when we had a conversation not so long ago, I could see in the background there, you had 888, and I'd love to know what the significance of that means to you in the context of what we're talking about. I love this idea about managing time, managing relationships, and essentially our mindset, I suppose, in terms of getting more from a finite amount of resources is what you're saying there. So tell me how those things all blend together for you and what you've learned about that, but also what it is that you teach around that in terms of how people can up their game, I suppose, with the same number of hours every day.
So the 888 formula is a holistic approach to time management. And that came about from an observation that when I was invited to speak to audiences about time management and productivity, it was only when I put up the slide that said 888 that they took their phones out, they scribbled furiously, they sent me messages, they sent me pictures, and they documented it on social media. And the reason that they did that is because it is not an information problem our clients have. It is an application problem. So we are all drowning in information. I call this, in my particular sector, toxic time management. Toxic time management is where we have this obsession with learning new things about time management all the time. Cue the 888 formula. It is the ultimate pattern interrupt, because when I start to talk about it, people's heads go to one side and they go, say that again? So let's dive into it. 888 added up equals 24. So 24 is 8 divided by 3. And it is 3 pillars that we base our 24-hour day on, based on science and society. So science says that we need to sleep between 7 and 9 hours so that our body can rest, recharge, regenerate overnight, and we're reset for another day. So let's call that 8. Society says that we should be working 8 hours a day. And so then what is left is the jam in the 888 sandwich. It's the middle 8. And this is where people start to go, this middle 8 is your relationships, your time with your family, time with your friends, time creating a new relationship, time growing a relationship. It is the time spent buying food, preparing food, cooking food, eating the food, washing up after the food. It is the time spent buying the clothes, wearing the clothes, washing the clothes, putting the clothes away. The time cleaning the house, the time exercising, the time doing your hobbies. It's everything. It's even the commute, which obviously the pandemic has helped all of us to identify was taking a sizable chunk of time from our daily lives. And at this point, people are then like, no, say this again. So I'm working a 14-hour day and I'm certainly not sleeping 8 hours. And I have no time for my life. Is this why I feel how I feel? And my answer to that is, well, I don't know how you feel and I can't comment on that, but I can comment on the fact that your actions is creating the reality you're currently living, which is giving you the life you currently have. If you're unhappy with any parts of it, what needs to change? And when we're running our own businesses, obviously there's a lot of activities that need to be done. And when we're a professional in an organization, there's lots of different things that come our way. So I'm teaching the entrepreneurs and business owners about outsourcing. I'm teaching the professionals around delegating. And in all of it, the conversation is always, is this activity something that I need to do? Is this activity adding value to my bottom line? Is this activity making me money? Is this activity my job? Which is the traffic light formula that we then teach. If it is, then green, do it. Is this activity leading to a result? Is this activity part of a project? Then that's amber. So then that has a second level priority. And then the final is to look at your to-do list and look at these activities that you've got and say, is this an admin activity? Could this be done by somebody else? Is this activity making money? Is this activity leading to money? If not, no, then that's a red activity. And that's how we sort of help people on the journey to becoming slightly more productive with their time when it comes to work, so that they can really get brutal about how long they are spending doing their 8-hour list of things that they've got to get done. So some people are spending 14 hours doing 18 hours of work. Yeah, that, I guess, is the 888 formula in a nutshell.
That's really insightful, actually, Abigail, because when you spell it out like that, I mean, on the one hand, it seems so obvious. We all know this. But on the other hand, when you kind of break it down and spell it out like that, you just think, gosh, actually, yeah, all of that stuff is going into those 8 hours and how that adds up. And I love what you were saying there about having this approach, this red, amber, green approach, this traffic light approach to being able to review how our time is being spent and how all of this is down to our relationship with time and how we're managing that time. Because you're absolutely right. The most successful people in the world, whoever they may be to us, have only got the same amount of time that we have.
Exactly.
And it must be the habits, the mindset, the relationships, the approach that they're taking that's different. And how can we realign our ambitions and our vision, I suppose, in terms of what it is we're doing, the action we're taking on a daily basis? Because as you quite rightly say there, it's our actions that lead to our current reality.
And so fundamentally in that place, it's what beliefs do they have about time that I don't? And so this is where I generally will start with the audience, is by saying, is someone else's time more valuable than yours? Do you believe that you have enough time? Do you believe that you need to be busy in order to be perceived as successful? And there's a whole ream of beliefs that we go through. And some people have it as a strong belief still currently. Some people have it as a previous belief. Some people have it as a belief that they're now aware of, that they're changing. And awareness is the key to change in anything. But it is these beliefs and that drive us. And like, do you believe that you're allowed to do what you want to do with your time? And those words, first of all, like, I'm not allowed is a sentence that will come up quite a lot. And I don't believe that my time is more valuable than someone else's. And then when you really delve into that, where does that come from? Childhood, society, school, teachers, experiences in the past jobs. So I love working with people with a corporate background because I can sort of say, yeah, I know, I've been there, and I was in a marketing role. So I'd sort of be classed as maybe a back office compared to other areas where they're sort of front house facing, client facing. And in those roles, you're there to serve and to support the sales team. The sales team are the ones whose time is more valuable than yours. But in essence, the reality isn't that is true. Everybody's time is valuable, and I can't help everybody in the organisation if I'm downgrading my time and waiting on certain people who aren't managing their time well. So it really does lead you down a rabbit hole of belief investigation, which is amazing. And just to come back to one thing you said, it is obvious, but common sense isn't common practice. And that's the fundamental. And sometimes that's what we're doing when we're coaches and we're working with our clients and we're saying something and they're like, yeah, I know that. And as I said, knowing isn't the same as doing. So if you know it, but you're not doing it, you don't really know it. So the obvious stuff and the whole kind of dividing your time and working these hours, it's been in society for hundreds of years where this is how long they've spent working, this is how long they've spent studying, this is how long they've spent in the mill, in the factory, in the old days. It's been around, but it's time now that people are looking at it and kind of going, oh, I really get it. And I think this comes down to what I was saying earlier about this toxic time management, where people are just overwhelmed with information and they're not applying what they know.
Yeah. So just on that then, where do you see the biggest issues lying in terms of the application side of things? And conversely, what do you see people doing successfully in terms of overcoming that issue with application?
So my big thing is I describe myself as a time confidence expert. And when people are like, what does that mean? I am explaining that you don't have a time management problem, you have a time confidence problem. You are not confident that this is your 24 hours. There is a belief in you somewhere, even if it's 10%, that is sabotaging how you show up to your meetings, how you show up with your clients, the vibration you're putting out into the universe, the energy you're getting back, the clients you're getting back. Look at your clients. Are they late for the sessions? Do they cancel the sessions at the last minute? It's a reflection of the respect that you have for your time, which is then leading to the respect that they have for their time. And it's all interconnected, and it's slightly along the verge of the woo-woo, if you like. But I love to look at the magical, the manifested, the spiritual world, and back it up and combine it with the strategic side of things. And by saying to people, whether you believe in the spiritual world or not, look at what's happening in your life. Energy doesn't lie.
Yeah, I love that idea of shifting our thinking away from time management to time confidence. It almost gives a sense of ownership. We can own our own time and we can be in charge of it. We can lead ourselves in that sense rather than having to rely or depend upon other people. Talking of time, I'm conscious of your time, Abigail, and this has been a fascinating conversation, and there's so much more I'd love to explore with you. We've talked a little bit about habits and obviously our relationships with time. What is it that you do in terms of how you apply your own time in continually improving yourself professionally? What sort of actions do you take in terms of that application to make sure that you're continuously evolving?
So for me, it comes down to my consciousness of my time and to consciously be aware of my time. I put things into my diary, which is just like my very basic strategy. I put everything into my diary, from my morning routine to the time that I'm going to get ready for bed, to my mid-afternoon check-in. I have that in as like a 15-minute appointment to remind myself to consciously check in with what's going on and where I'm at. And I am always evaluating and assessing based on how I feel. Did that meeting drain my energy? Did that meeting add value to what it is that we want to achieve? And just being conscious all of the time that we all get the same 24 hours, but we're not all spending it in the same way. And I've got better the more confident I've got about my time at saying no to things. And I think that's the other important thing as we grow, saying no to clients, saying no to projects, saying no to opportunities, saying no to interviews, saying no to the things that aren't taking me on my mission, which is to share the 888 formula with 1 million people by 2025 to help awaken people to this time consciousness.
And on that, Abigail, I know you've got a book, and I was eager to ask you what guidance or resources you may have for our listener today. So would you like to talk a little bit about that and what it offers our listener?
Yeah, I'm so excited. Thank you. So the book is called Time Management for Entrepreneurs and Professionals. It's the revised and updated version of my previous book, which is a joke. When I say revised and updated, I have pretty much ended up rewriting the book. So it's almost a brand new book.
Yeah.
It now has 8 pages on the 888 formula. It's got brand new case studies, and it is a 5-step guide. It's 88 pages long. So it's for the people who are seriously committed about changing their relationship with time, but don't have the time to read a super long book. And it is available at the end of this month. It will be coming out in print, and I'm super excited. And by the end of this month, I mean May, just to be clear. And I'm really, really proud of where it's at, and the pre-reading of the pre-readers and what they've been saying, and just the brain breakthroughs when people hear about the 888. And then, like, every single day people are saying to me, I still think about that 888 thing. I still think about that conversation where you shared whatever it is, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And I'm like, yeah, this is amazing.
Thanks ever so much for that, Abigail. So you've had a fascinating journey, and thank you so much for sharing that with us today. For our listener, where can they reach out to you, and how can they best connect with you to learn more about you and your work?
Yeah, 2 places that are best to connect with me. The first is LinkedIn, where I hang out most days. And then the second would be Instagram, where I'm also there sharing inspirational, motivational quotes, training, updates. And if you find me on either of those platforms, then you will be redirected to all of the good stuff.
Fantastic. Well, Abigail, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's flown by.